Have you ever experienced something so terrifying that it shakes the very foundation of your reality? Imagine sitting alone in the comfort of your home, where everything should feel safe, when suddenly, a voice calls your name soft, eerie, as though it is whispering from the other side of the room. You turn, and yet, no one is there. Your heart races as the air around you thickens with unease. The voice comes again, louder this time, and this time, it's not just your name, it's an invitation. An invitation to something darker than you could ever imagine. This happened to Laura, a young woman who thought she knew the world and all its mysteries. But what she didn't know was that some mysteries should never be solved. Laura had always been skeptical of things that could not be explained logically. To her, everything in life had a cause, a reason. There was no such thing as the supernatural, no such thing as spirits or ghosts. If something went bump in the night, it was just the house settling or the wind. She had moved into a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city, a place that promised peace and quiet. It was perfect for someone who needed a fresh start. Fresh paint on the walls, clean floors, a few plants on the windowsill. It was the perfect space for starting over. But Laura didn't realize it was also the perfect space for something much darker. It all began innocently enough. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Laura sat down on her couch after a long day at work. She was flipping through her phone, checking social media posts, scrolling through messages, when suddenly, she heard it. A faint whisper, almost imperceptible. At first, she brushed it off. It was probably just the sound of a car passing by outside, or maybe the pipes making noise in the walls. She tried to focus back on her phone, but then, the whisper came again. "Lara," it said, soft but clear. Her blood ran cold. She wasn't alone in the apartment, was she? She jumped up and walked toward the door. No one was there. "Lara, come closer." Her heartbeat quickened. The voice sounded so real, so close, like someone was standing just outside her door. She looked through the peephole. There was no one. Her mind raced. This can't be happening, she thought. The whispers didn't stop. They kept coming, night after night, growing more persistent, more insistent. The voice would always say her name, always from a different part of the apartment. Sometimes it came from the hallway, other times from the kitchen, or even from the closet. But no matter where she went, no matter how many lights she turned on, it followed her. One night, she decided to leave the apartment and go to a nearby cafe. She needed to clear her mind. Maybe it was just stress, she thought. She couldn't keep living in fear. But as she sat down at a table, drinking a coffee, the voice found her. Soft, barely audible, yet unmistakable. "Lara." She looked around, her breath catching in her throat. The cafe was crowded, people laughing and talking, but the voice was coming from right behind her. She turned sharply, expecting to see someone standing there. No one was there. Her heart pounded in her chest. Something was terribly wrong. She stood up quickly, leaving a few bills on the table. The air felt thick, suffocating. It felt as if the shadows themselves were following her, pressing in on her from all sides. That night, after returning to her apartment, Lara did something she never thought she would. She Googled the history of the building. She had never paid much attention to the place before, but now she needed answers. What could possibly explain these whispers? What she found was unsettling. The apartment building had a history, a dark one. The building had been constructed on the site of a once grand house, but the house had been destroyed in a fire that took the lives of a family of 4. The building had been rebuilt many years later, but there were rumors that the spirits of the family had never left. Locals said that the whispers were always heard by those who lived in the apartment closest to the fire's origin. Lara was in that very apartment. She couldn't believe what she was reading. It was too unbelievable. It felt like a horror story, one of those tales people told for fun around a campfire. But the whispers were real. She could feel them now, tugging at the edges of her thoughts, urging her to listen, to come closer. As the weeks went by, Lara could no longer ignore the whispers. They grew louder, more urgent. Sometimes they would just say her name, but other times they would tell her things that only someone who knew her intimately would know. "Come back to the fire," one whisper hissed in her ear one night. "We're waiting for you." It was on that night that Lara made a decision. She couldn't take it anymore. She had to confront whatever was in her apartment. Whatever this force was, it was getting stronger by the day, and she had to face it head on. She gathered her courage and sat in the middle of her living room, surrounded by candles. She had done some research online, reading about occult rituals, trying to find a way to make contact with the spirits. She didn't believe in this stuff, but she was desperate for answers. "Lara." The voice came again, soft, as though it was right behind her. She closed her eyes, trying to focus. "Who are you?" she asked aloud, her voice trembling. The room grew cold. A gust of wind blew through the room, even though all the windows were shut tight. The shadows in the corners seemed to twist and move. The air was thick, oppressive. "We are the ones who burned," a voice answered, coming from all directions at once. Lara's heart raced. She opened her eyes, but nothing was there. The shadows, though, they were darker now, swirling like smoke. Something in the room was alive, and it was closing in on her. The whispers now took on a new tone, one of anger, one of pain. Lara could hear them all around her, screaming, wailing, as if they were trapped in eternal torment. "We didn't die," the voice whispered. "We were taken. You are one of us now." Lara felt a cold hand brush against her shoulder, and she screamed. But no one came. There was no one in the apartment to help. She was alone, with the voices of the dead, the spirits of the family that had once lived here. In that moment, Lara realized the horrifying truth. The spirits weren't just haunting the apartments, they were feeding off her fear. They thrived on her doubt, on her disbelief, and now they had her. The whispers were no longer just sounds in the dark. They had become a presence, something that wrapped around her mind and soul. Lara knew she had to fight back. She couldn't let them win. She remembered a line from a book she had read once. "The greatest weapon against the darkness is light." In a moment of clarity, Lara grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and turned it on, shining it across the room. The shadows recoiled, the whispers faltering. She spoke aloud, her voice trembling but strong. "I don't fear you anymore. I will not be your prisoner." The shadows screeched as the light pierced through them, burning away their forms. The temperature in the room rose as the whispers began to fade. For the first time in weeks, Lara felt at peace. The air felt lighter, the darkness receding. The next morning, Lara left the apartment. She didn't pack a bag, didn't take anything with her except the lesson she had learned. She realized that sometimes the things we fear are not just figments of our imagination. They are the consequences of ignoring the truth, of ignoring the signs. She never went back to that apartment. She found a new place, far from the darkness that had once consumed her. But the lesson she carried with her was one she would never forget. Fear doesn't control you unless you let it. And sometimes, the biggest danger isn't the things you can see, but the things you refuse to believe. Thanks for joining us on this thrilling ride. If you felt that chill, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, because who doesn't love a good story that sends shivers down your spine? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next eerie adventure. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and always be ready for the unexpected. See you in the next one.